Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Another really quick little bit of important information in regards to water pumps. When we give you information, whether it's, writing something, putting photos up or doing videos, the sort of things we've done over the years, we're really careful what we tell you and stuff like that because we need to make sure it's right so that all the right things happen. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to point out here with this one, it's to do with a water pump job. Now, there's a few people around for different reasons that think you need to change this backing plate. Now, I'll just let you now know our experience with that and, of course, what we think about it with some facts included so you can make your own decision. Doesn't bother me whether you change it or not. Now, this is mainly for those guys. Obviously, there's people buying the water pump, timing belt, drive belt, all the bearings, the whole big front engine kit off us. So that's awesome. And you just need to know that you're doing the right thing when you go to fit these parts. So if you see or watch our videos on how to replace the timing belt water pump, I'm not sure if that's on YouTube yet, but certainly in the VIP group. This backing plate, so it certainly does come with a water pump. Now Toyota are not going to want to just sell this separately, so it comes as an assembly. Now in the aftermarket area you can buy a lot of different brands of just the water pump, this part here, and you can also buy them with the backing plate. I'll use the GMB brand for one example. Japan made brand, pretty well known and used in the automotive industry. We thought the pumps were pretty good, but we've heard a few stories in recent years about pumps leaking prematurely and stuff, so we're losing a little bit of confidence in those. We do prefer to stick with genuine. The main reasons are these gaskets. Now, I'll get back to the quality of the gaskets in a minute. What I wanted to point out is, though, there's some people that are telling you, while you're in there, you may as well replace the back bit and do it properly. Some are businesses that, they want to sell the bigger job, you know what I mean? So that's mainly what it's all about, I think. But there's other people that are genuinely concerned if you don't change this backing plate here. So we just want to try and put your concerns at rest if you're one of those people that are undecided or not sure whether you should or should have done that or not. So let's explain it. So this is what we call the two-piece water pump. A lot of vehicles have got this. Some have got a one-piece. It doesn't split like this, right? So what we do is we supply the two-piece water pump, which bolts up, and then you never have to do this back section again. Now, subject to you having nice, clean, regular coolant changes. Now, with all the ones we've ever pulled off these, generally this is how they look. This is a brand new one that hasn't been used. It'll go into scrap metal because we don't install them. There's no need to unless you've got a single-piece water pump. If I was to install that, I'm going to do quite a bit of extra work, probably another couple of hours labour, and it's going to cost you money unnecessarily. Would that be fair? I don't think so. Would I do it on my car? No. So why would I charge you to do it on your car? We like to be fair. We're not here to sell you anything you don't need. Otherwise we'd have a big website. There's bigger, better ways to make money that are a lot easier than what I'm doing at the moment. So rest assured, here's the information to help you out. Of course, naturally we need to pay the bills, so we're going to sell a few parts and work on a few cars to get some money to pay the bills like everybody else. Now, let me explain to you why it's not an issue not changing this backing plate. So assuming the coolant changes have been done and it's in good clean condition, and this water pump obviously isn't off this housing, this is a new housing, this is an old water pump that we changed at 150 with the timing belt, and as it turns out it just happened to be leaking, but that's another story. The story here is people are saying things like, once you undo the 6 bolts, let's have a look at the 6 bolts on the other side of the water pump, right? The bolts aren't there, but the holes are there. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nuts and bolts, whatever, right? Doesn't really matter what nuts and bolts, whatever you want to call them. Once you loosen those, it's going to take the pressure off the gasket and something, and it might leak. Now, I'm going to go through a few points with that. Now, if you took the pressure off those bolts and took it off and reused it and put the gasket back on, my money's on it wouldn't leak anyway, right? Quality gaskets. Now, while we're at the point talking about the gaskets, I want to mention the reason I use the genuine Toyota pumps is because of the gaskets. The old paper gaskets, they're really hard and messy to clean off. I don't like them. The Toyota stainless gaskets with that rubber coating over the top, they just peel straight off, right? You'll get a black stain sort of thing like this, right? but it's flat. You don't need to clean that off. Just make sure the surface is flat. It's more of a color stain, right? I'll get the light out the way, it might help you see better. That is dead flat. I cannot feel, there's no ridge fit. You can get your fingernail, there's nothing there to feel. Now my point is, so we like the gasket. This is what happens. The gaskets stick really well. You can see. I'll turn the light off. I think it's better, right? Light off, okay? The gaskets, you can see the black. They stick. When you undo those 6 bolts with a water pump, it doesn't come free. It doesn't unstick. It doesn't fall off, okay? You've got, if you, like I said, if you've seen in my video, just give it a gentle tap with a heavy hammer on the, you know, just a boom, bada bing, bada boom, right there. And then that just pops off, right? The point is they stick. So even if all pressure was removed from that pump and this backing plate, and if there was nothing else retaining it, it would still stick, okay? So it's not gonna start leaking because it's popped out a little bit and then let's just pretend it did. If it did, once it's bolted up again, it isn't gonna leak. It's gonna just not leak again, okay? Quality parts, quality gaskets, okay? Now, the main thing I want to point out is it's not going to happen because in behind the timing belt, right, you've got these 2 bolts here. 1, 2, they're done up at this end, right? This is a solid piece of alloy, right? So if it's bolted at each side, it's not moving anyway. So you've got 2 bolts there, which is going to secure all this main area here. And you've got 2 bolts mounting here, the tensioner bracket the other side, which maintains the pressure onto the housing of the water pump. So basically what's going to happen is it's still bolted down. It can't move. It's not going to budge. Like I said, it wasn't going to budge anyway, but it's especially not going to budge because it's still bolted down. So if this is the decider whether you're going to do your water pump timing belt or not, or how much work you're going to go into, I hope this really helps. I hope you get what I mean. So I'll try and explain a bit further. We'll go over to an engine in a minute and have a look. Right, so because a lot of people not familiar with this, we're trying to help you guys get this done and save some money. We know a lot of the vehicles are getting a bit older, and a lot of people want to, you know, have a crack. They do a lot of work themselves, save some money, and the key thing is getting it done right the first time. Because without naming any places or dealerships or brands or workshops, there's a lot of people in these places that just don't have the skills or the time to get things done right the first time, and that's not what you want if you're using your 4-wheel drive in the outback. You need it to be reliable. So that's why we're trying to teach you how to do it and the right way to do it, or at least back you up with that information, right? So that's how it sits on the vehicle. Let's go over to an engine. I'll just say a couple other things actually. So look, just picture it bolted down. See on the right and the left, it's bolted down. It's not budging. It sticks. The proof of the sticking's right there. See the black stones, right? If you see in the video, I can tell you everyone's the same. You know, you've got to give this a tap to crack that loose. They're stuck quite well. You're not going to have any leaks. You're going to save yourself a lot of work if you don't replace this, because to replace this, you have to remove your alternator, your aircon compressor, and then the whole tensioner assembly over this side. And over this side here, you've of course got to remove your camshaft pulley, which means you've got to turn the nut and the bolt. And we tell you how to do that using caution in the videos, but you need to be careful. This is where things can go wrong, because if you lose the keyway, or you don't torque up the bolt, or you accidentally turn the camshaft when the bolt's off trying to do things, that's where you can run into a bit of trouble. So we like to avoid things that are unnecessary for so many reasons. It's just not necessary. It's a waste of money. There's no risk whatsoever not changing this. So I hope I've been clear. Let's go over to a vehicle and have a look at an engine, actually, not a vehicle, and have a look where it's bolted on, and that to show you and hopefully explain a bit more. Okay, so here's one with the head off and the water pump still on and fully bolted in place. Okay, so you can see where, just showing you where those nuts and bolts sit. See on the top right hand corner of the picture, you've got the bolt at the top, and then you've got the nut below it at the middle of the picture now. Right, that's quite securely going to hold that in. And over this side, the tension is not there, but you can see it's normally, you know, bolted over the top of that. That's solid material. We're talking over 10 mil thick with 2 big bolts in it. That backing plate is not going anywhere. So if you think it's a possibility that's going to come away and crack that seal, it's a physical impossibility. Not going to happen. As I've said already, I'm repeating myself, not going to happen. If it did happen, if the bolts came out, it would still sit there until you gave it a tap or something prior to try to crack that seal. They're stuck there, they're stuck in position. Okay, not going to happen. And even if it did, I'm telling you now, I could take this water pump off, put it back on again with the same gasket. It's not going to leak. Quality parts and components. All right, guys, I reckon that pretty well covers it. I don't know what else I can tell you. I hope you're confident to be able to do it that way. That's the easy way. If you've got the Hilux or one of the engines that's got the one-piece pump and you need to convert it over, that's what you need to do. What do you need to do? So to be clear about what you need to do is this is your water pump, right? On some of the engines, particularly mostly a lot of Hiluxes, right? So these 6 bolts, nothing's going to happen. The water pump's going to stay there, okay? On these vehicles are the ones where you need to disconnect your battery, disconnect your wires from your alternator, take the alternator right out. You get to the aircon compressor, don't disconnect the pipes with the gas and everything, just the 4 bolts, and sit that back out of the way. And then you'll be able to get to all the bolts. There's a number of bolts there, 1 or 2 of them a little bit hidden, so don't try and rip that bracket off. Once you get the bolts out for the tensioner bracket, I'm talking about the drive belt tensioner, not the timing belt. We're over this side, right? We're not at this side. This is the timing belt. We'll get to that. So this side, the drive belt tensioner, you've got to unbolt the whole thing, including the 2 in the front. There's a couple in the side. Like I said, once you get all the bolts out, it'll fall off easily, right? Now that's the expensive part, and that's why we replaced the bearing. We supply the bearing in our kit for that drive belt tensioner bearing and all the other bearings. Every bearing basically except your alternator, and you're not going to replace those before you have problems with it, unless I suppose you get to 500,000 Ks and you feel like doing it. Maybe your 3rd, 4th or 5th timing belt, you might just send the alternator off the auto elect, so there's a point. Anyway, that's what's happening at that side. At this side, you're going to need to remove the timing belt, the backing plate, which has got 3 bolts retaining it. Let's grab one of them and show you. Okay, so this is a bit of a mess what it looks like. All right, so I've shown you this in the videos, but I'm just going to include this in this video as well. We're giving you information and warnings and information, so might as well give you the lot. So this bolt is the one that's got to go back to 98 Newton meters. In my opinion, the best way to crack that loose is crack it loose while the timing belt's still in position. You can put a 22 mil down on the crankshaft down the bottom, and then this is a 19 mil. It'll crack loose fairly easy. As soon as you crack that loose, then you can set your timing marks, make sure it's on the right mark again in other videos. Obviously the bolt comes out. A bit of a really gentle tap. You can use a puller if you like, but these don't take much. They're a taper, see that? It's tapered so they come off quite easily as well. Right, and of course there's a little keyway, you don't want to lose that, so keep that aside. Then you're going to undo these 2 bolts here, the other bolt there. Once you remove those, that plate will come out of the way, right? Now, there's a bit of insulation that goes in front of the head above the water pump. If you take that out to give it a clean up or anything, or clean in behind it, whatever you want to do, just don't forget to put it back before you put this backing plate back on. Now, along the bottom of the backing plate, we'll just get these bolts out of the way. And of course, then you'd have your bolt and your nut down there to get those out the way. Now, along the bottom of this timing cover backing plate, there is a little bit of silicone from factory, RTV, you know, the grey stuff, the ultra grey, right? You don't need to smother it. It doesn't have to be absolutely sealed. I'll tell you why, because the timing cover itself, the cover doesn't seal that well anyway, right? So just a really thin amount along here, a really small amount's all you need. And then you sit that, hold it in place while you put your bolts back in. Bada boom, you can see your bolts. What is there? 4 bolts, whatever anyway. So they don't usually have any sealant behind there. You can put a tiny little bit there if you like as well. Just keep it to a minimum. You only need a little bit to seal things. As I said, this surface here on the timing belt cover, especially once they get older, the rubber, even not older ones, even at 150, these are full of dust and stuff. They don't seal that well. That's why you need to do this maintenance every 150. Changing the belt, and I recommend changing that idler. Like I said, all this stuff's included in our kit. I don't know what else I can tell you. I've given you a lot of extra information with this job already. It was just to tell you don't need to be concerned about changing this and putting yourself through all this extra work if it's not required. Now, same deal with the cam seal. We supply the cam seal, goes in behind here, right, around the camshaft. We supply it with a kit. Best, this is all removed to change that seal. But in our opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the reason is, some people say, oh, you're in there, you may as well change the seal. Well, I get that, but it's not a Holden or a Ford, okay? if you're in a Holden or a Ford and you've got the transmission out, yeah, you change the rear main seal anyway because it's going to leak. These cam seals don't usually leak. The rear mains don't usually leak. On the 1KDs, I'll say. We're not talking about petrols here. They usually leak, but that's another story. On the diesels, none of these seals usually leak. The cam seal is, once you change it, if you don't do it right, you might upset it, then it might leak prematurely, right? That's what I'm saying. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep the seal for a spare. And then, if it leaks, it's not, you're then experienced that it's not that hard to get the timing belt off, backing plate off. You don't have to do the water pump. Once you do this water pump, even if you've got the one piece, once you do this water pump once, you're done. Then you don't have to do the timing belt at the same time. Even if you've got a leaking water pump, it's 6 bolts, bada boom, off she comes. Not quite that easy because I said the gasket sticks really well. Anyway, this video is giving you another whole heap of information. I hope that helps the understanding a bit more. And for the people that had genuine concerns, I hope that helps you too. And for the people in businesses that just want to sell more work, I'm sorry, that's not what we're here for. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.